Gotta love that. Gotta love that background music. So, hey guys, this is Silas Knowles, aka Rob Knowles, at pushingboundaries.com for the Recovery Mode podcast. Basically, why we're here today, just education with conversations with educators, with people in the educational world, just talking about our new normal and everything else. But Pushbound Consulting, just to let you guys know, we have this new document, manuscript, manifesto, whatever you want to call it, recovery mode. Basically talking about unexpected emerging change for our unexpected emerging things from rapid change for educators, talking about what school's going to look like during COVID, what school's going to look like post-COVID, pre-COVID. This is the conversation that basically everyone wants to talk about right now. You can get this at pushboundconsulting.com. It is a free 158-page ebook. Definitely something for educators, for administrators, and for people who just have children in school that definitely just want to know more about what's going on. We're definitely in the heart of it. I am a high school teacher, so definitely we're getting ramped up and ready to go. And today, I have a very good friend of mine waiting in the wings and everything else. We're going to talk a little bit about it. This is Mr. Hal Bowman.
What's happening?
Hi, Hal. How you doing, brother?
Great, man.
Hey, just love seeing you, love having you. Definitely, he is Hal. Who are you, man? I mean, I know anyone in education knows who you are.
Yeah,
they've seen you, but who is Hal Bowman? What are you all about, brother?
Man, I started this whole education game decades ago. In fact,
hold on. By the way, I just wanted you to know the hat thing. We didn't talk about that before. It just was a natural thing. So
I could feel the vibe. I could feel the cool vibe all the way in Houston. So I put it on, man. Definitely. Yeah, dude. I started this thing years ago, man, decades ago. And what's interesting, I was just recently in the very town I began in, and speaking. And man, it just brought back so many memories. And so I started out back in the late 80s. I was a high school band director and K through 12 music. And then I taught that for a long time. And then I transitioned to the academic classroom. I was teaching biology and language arts. And then from there, I transitioned to teaching leadership classes and mentoring programs and all kinds of fun stuff like that. And then eventually, one day, man, a principal came up and he was a big fan of what I was doing in the classroom and asked me if I would talk to other teachers about what I do and how I do it with some of my challenging populations. And I did that. And next thing I know, another principal asked, and that was about a decade ago. And ever since then, man, I've been on the road, traveling coast to coast. And I have my event for educators called Teach Like a Rockstar, which is a full day professional development event. And then I also have a few other things where I do it's all about revolutionizing campus culture. And it has been awesome.
Definitely. Teach Like a Rockstar. I could say for my own benefit that I have attended. I attended one in Schaumburg, Illinois at the Hyatt over by the Woodfield over there. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So definitely it is a great, great day for PD, not to blow smoke towards Hal. He doesn't need it, but just say it is a great PD. It's awesome. Definitely a full day of just getting re-energized about education, getting re-energized about what we're doing and everything. So it just, it's one of those things where it's really cool. He's been doing it, and he had hair, I guess. He always shows this thing during Teach Like a Rockstar where he shows a picture. He has these like wonderful dark locks that just flow in the wind. And it's just, I don't know. I mean, how long has it been since you've had hair, sir?
Oh man, it's been years at this point. It might have been 5 or 6 years, and it's but those pictures are still out there, dude. It was a glorious, glorious crop upon my head, and I nurtured it, I seasoned it, we cultivated it, and then
I put some activator in it or something.
All of it, you name it, it was happening up on there. And then, but you know what happened was one day I was on TV. I was doing a teacher thing on TV, and then I thought I was so awesome, and so I went home to just show everybody how awesome I was. And there's this moment where I turn around to talk to the audience, and there's like this glow on the back of my head. I'm like, "What is that?" And they're like, "Dude, that's your bald spot." I'm like, "My bald spot? What?" I go, "I got a bald spot." And they're like, "Yeah, man." We're all looking down at it because I'm only 5'3". Everybody can see it, but everybody but me. And so apparently no one told me about it for a couple of years. So at that day, brother, I went and got the sheep shears and I took it all off.
That's awesome. I mean, definitely when they find the bald spot on you, it's time to
Yeah, let me tell you something. I thought I said right now, no, nature will not be in charge of this program. I will be in charge of this, and I'm taking it all off.
Jeez. So definitely the whole thing, we had this whole thing with the show. I don't know if you've seen the show before, but we did contributors to the book. We had a guest a week for each chapter. I contributed a chapter, so I was my own guest. Dr. Rick Jetter interviewed me for one. But I tried to start up another thing with this conversation with educators about what this new normal is going to look like, and what we can do to help, and what we can talk about, and really bring to light some of the things that will help teachers and educators and administrators and people just be successful during this time. I mean, what's your thoughts on this current new normal? I mean, I know Texas is getting slammed a little bit, but I mean, what's your thoughts on this new normal right now?
Man, I have to tell you, I think based on, I really don't know what's going to happen. My gut tells me, just based on what I'm seeing around the nation from the few districts that are going back, and just inside information from listening in on superintendent conversations at some of the districts in and around Houston, I just don't see it happen. I just don't see us going back. Just with just how easily at this point the disease is just transmitted among kids, and obviously most are asymptomatic, but it doesn't mean teachers are. And so so for me, at this point with education, I see most of it for the districts around here will be primarily virtual for who knows how long.
Right.
And if anything, man, what I always tell people, like, more than ever right now is the moment that we really need to help and support and empower educators to dig down deep into those most important questions of all, which is, what do you want for your kids as a result of spending their lives with you this year, whether that's in your classroom or on your class Zoom? Ultimately, what's the real lesson this year for your kids that they're going to remember forever for the rest of their lives? Why are we still doing this? I mean, this is the most challenging profession on the planet, bar none. Right. And then now it's exponentially even more challenging. And then finally, who do we need to be for our kids as a teacher, as a school family? Who do our kids need us to be for them right now? And I think the challenge is the main question that we're focusing on as educators is the how. How are we going to do it? How are we going to provide education? Which is important for sure. But what I know to be true is this, just based on all that I've seen around the nation and the schools with whom I work, is when we focus only on the how, that becomes the grind. And the grind will grind you down. It's going to wear you out, and you're going to get exhausted and frustrated and angry and burn out. But when we start with the what do we want for our kids? Why are we here? Why this profession? Why now? Why these kids? And who do I need to be for them right now? When that creates the foundation and we focus primarily on that, the how just kind of works itself out, and we're fueled for the how. Like, that's the real fuel for education, and focusing on those three deep personal questions, that keeps us fueled for the whole school year.
I think, and that's awesome, because I think most people are so worried this coming fall about the content and like, how am I going to deliver the content? And I think, tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I think it's more about the connections you're going to be making with those students, and those
forever,
the relationships and everything else, because the content could be there all day long, but if you don't have that connection, it's not going to matter worth one way or another.
Yeah.
For the kid. So it's just the connections all day long just need to be there.
I'll tell you something interesting. I just did a 45-minute session for a crew in Texas, and it was a number of elementary schools, and they were so stressed. And what they wanted was just give us some teachers some confidence in how they're going to do this. And I said, no problem. And at the end of the 45 minutes, they felt, they were just revitalized, rejuvenated, and they couldn't wait. And they felt so secure in what they were going to do. But here's what's interesting. I never talked about how to do it. What we talked about was what, the why, and the who. But because we focused, they finally got to focus on that. They had all these realizations on how to do it on their own. So it's not about anyone, including me, telling specifically how we're going to do this. Sure, we also have some Zoom tips and tricks and stuff like that, of course. But what those three main questions that really provide the creative energy and plant those creative seeds of resourcefulness, so teachers can come up with the how on their own.
Do you think all these teachers that are so worried about the fall, Uh-oh, you coughed. I'm kidding.
There's a computer virus. Watch out. Cover up.
No, but with all the people that are so concerned, I mean, you've seen social media. You're on social media more than I am, and you see all the teachers worried and everything. What's the one thing that you think teachers are most worried about right now? Is it the delivery? Is it safety? Is it a combination of both? I mean, what do you think it is?
Man, I'll tell you what, this is what uniquely interesting in this time, because any other time it was all pretty much the same few things, that we were all focused on the same few concerns that we all shared. This is very different, because now some teachers are completely obsessed with how I'm going to deliver this content, and they're worried about nothing else. Other teachers are focused completely on my own personal self and health and safety. Maybe somebody's diabetic, or they have or they're taking care of their parents in their home and they don't want to bring anything. And so as we go from teacher to teacher to teacher, that's what's unique about this year is they all have their own individual, very unique concerns that oftentimes is unlike anybody else in their immediate circle, on their in their immediate team with whom they work at the schoolhouse. So never before, man, have we had a time where our professional learning communities really should be more important. Like, this is the critical time where people can come together and talk about what they're concerned about and support each other and be creative and help each other. Man, it's, I think sometimes we spend a lot of time looking towards that principal or somebody that's going to provide the answers magically for us. And that's not their job. And it's certainly not going to happen. Yeah. Yeah. What it is those teachers coming together and creating that family at the school, especially in that close knit, whatever team they're on, whatever department they're in, and coming together and loving each other and supporting each other and empowering each other to make it through this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just, we need collaboration is going to be the key this time. Collaboration is definitely going to be the key. So not to, again, give you any more props than I already have, but when it comes to how does someone teach like a rock star?
Man, that's so funny that, it's it's kind of ridiculous. Here's the truth behind the whole story is somebody asked me to speak to teachers, and I did that, and then I just came up with a name that I thought made sense at the time. And which was, the whole program, as it's all about how to create that legacy for a kid, that legendary impact that's going to last a lifetime, not just for that kid, but pass it on to his family. And how do we use the content of our classroom to make that happen? And so at the time I had this whole thing, and it was called Legendary Teaching. And like, you remember, I had this big giant hairdo, and there's
at that time you were crop top. You were a little like on the you had some hair.
I had tons, dude, back then. I had tons when I first started. Yeah. So I had tons. And so I had all this hair is hanging off my head. And there's Legendary Teaching, and I'm wearing a tie and a suit and the whole bit. And none of it made sense. Like, people would look at that picture and the title, like, what does that even mean? And no one would show up and no one would hire me. And then, so one day I'm in my classroom, and a friend of mine, his friend came to hang out with my kids, and I'm in the double wide, because we're all overcrowded. And so I'm hanging in the double wide, and all these kids are coming in for lunch. I've got 30 or 40 kids having lunch, and we're just loving each other, man. He goes, dude, you're like the rock star of this place. And like right then I thought, okay, here we go. And so what's interesting, it has nothing to do with me or the role of the teacher in front of the class. What it all has to do is how do we create that environment where kids love it and they want to be there and they want to be a part of that feeling. If you think about like a concert you've been to or anything where there's a group of people all sharing the same emotion at the same time, and there's that synergistic effect where, it's now the emotion's even greater than the individual emotions among the people. Like, that's what it's about. How do we create a classroom where kids love it? They want to be there. They feel significant. They feel like they matter, and they want to contribute. And, and that's kind of where the whole thing came about.
Now, where do you think about, I mean, going off that, and I try to do that all the time to create those experiences and create those ideas, to make sure that classroom is someone a kid wants to come to. What do you say to that 30-year-in teacher that sticks to the curriculum, that opens the book and everything else? I mean, what would you say to him to try to get, to try to get him to change, or to try to get him to be weird, want to deliver better content and make those connections with those kids?
Yeah. I think here's what's funny is, like, I'm that guy. Like, I'm old, dude. Like, I'm in my mid 50s. But
I'm 46. I'm old
I know.
too.
Yeah. So here's what it comes down to is like, I'm old fashioned. I want teachers teaching and learners learning. What I do know and what I am convinced of and what I can prove to anyone is right now with this generation, that is only going to happen at the deepest levels when you build that relationship with kids. There's a direct relationship with the depth of the connection with the depth of the learning. So if you truly are an educator and all you care about is the kids learning at a deep level, then it must be preceded by a deep connection. And deep down inside, dude, everybody wants to be that person, no matter how long they've been around, how long they've been doing the same thing. If they're still in the trenches, if they're still in the game, I know it. There's at least one cell in that human body that wants to be the one. They want to be the one the kid thinks about and talks about for the rest of their life. They want to be the one that makes that lifelong impact that lasts forever. I know they do. So my job is when I show up at a school or they come to a conference or I'm speaking, is finding that one little trigger in that person and connecting with it so they can feel what it's like. Here's the thing, man. Like, there's no way they can want it for a kid unless they've ever felt it themselves. So my job is to get them to feel that connection. Then they're going to think, man, I want to have this with my kid. I want them to feel the way I'm feeling right now. And then they can teach.
Agreed. I mean, that's the thing that you need, that everyone needs right now.
Yeah.
That's definitely what everyone needs right now. So
but here's what I'm telling teachers, dude, you can even do that on the, like, I know it's easier and I don't even know. I shouldn't say that because I don't know for sure. I suspect it might be easier in person, but I guarantee it can happen online. I guarantee it can happen on a Zoom. I know it can. Yeah. The difference is we have to be a lot more clear and be able to articulate all those answers we talked about, what we want for our kids and why we're there and who we need to be. We got to be able to be crystal clear on your personal reason, your personal answer, and be able to look in that little hole, like right there on the frame of the computer, so the kid can see you looking at them. So that way they can feel it, man. I mean, that's the thing. We want them to be able to feel it.
Definitely. So if you were to have a magic wand and be able to change anything about education going into the fall with our new normal, what would it be?
Change anything, man. I want listen,
if you
brother.
Could change, it would happen. And if you were able to change one thing to make it, what would it be?
Ben, here's what I was telling you last week. I went back to where I first started. And we had a setup time at 6. As you know, I carry a lot of gear. It takes a while to set up.
Yes, you do.
So we have a 6 a.m. setup. And
this is a one-man band, ladies and gentlemen. He takes 30 bags.
It's a lot. And so I left the hotel probably 4:30 or 5, just so I could drive around the town a little bit. And man, I go in through the neighborhoods and I go into the apartment complex where the gates don't work. And I drive through and I see where these kids are, man. And I know that families are struggling more than ever, and these are hardworking, good, solid people that are just doing the best they can, man. And they're working multiple jobs and kids are trying to help out and they're trying to pay bills. And I see evictions happening and I see challenges. And man, it's of course it's the same thing as everybody. If I had a magic wand and I could wave it, it would be that is how can we get our kids all to come back so they can be with their school family? Because for lots of them, and I'm going to venture to say for the schools with whom I mostly work, it's not lots, it's most. For most of the kids, this is their family and this is where they feel safe and this is where they feel secure. And that teacher, that's their real mom. And you're their real dad. And this is where they're learning how to grow up and become great adults and high performing kids of exceptional character. And I know, and here's the thing, man, is looking back on my career, I can remember walking from my classroom to check my box right before I went home. It'd be like 5:15. And I look in the cafeteria and I would see these kids, like these are the most challenging personalities in the school. I mean, they're getting written up every day. And here they are at 5:15 sitting in the cafeteria. They could be anywhere, but they're right there. The reason is because this is really their home. This is, even though they're in trouble and even though they act out and even though they say they hate it, well, you say you hate it, but you're playing dominoes right there at 5:15 in the cafeteria.
They got nowhere else to go. I mean, that's.
And I really wish we could somehow just make it safe for everybody for them to come back.
Yeah. I mean, agreed. I mean, some of them are just, they need us because most of the time they spend what, 6-7 hours a day with us sometimes, and
Yeah.
7 hours a day, 5 days a week. They spend more time with us than they spend with their own parents. And it's, it's deep, man. I mean, it's deep. It's a deep connection that we all have to understand and agree to, that, it's just something we got to step up to. And some people are willing to. I am, you are, a lot of people are. But then there are some people that just, need to get out of the way and just make that decision. It's like, if you get to step up and be that connection, or let the people who want to be move in and deal with it. So, I mean, there's so much curriculum and data versus SEL, social emotional learning. It's just definitely people need to weigh it out a little bit different, I guess.
Yeah. Man, I saw research, this is probably between 15 and 20 years ago, that the research back then, I still remember it was kids, the average kid on average spends about between 7 and 8 minutes of direct interaction with a parent per day. 7 and 8 minutes. Wow. Dude, this is before cell phones. This is before iPads. This is before everyone has a laptop. This is before everyone, we're passing out Chromebooks to kids. This is before all of that, man. And I think about now, and I'm not just talking about kids in, lower socioeconomic places. I'm talking about a kid with parents with fancy jobs, and they're on their phone and they're not connecting and they're in the same room. And then again, man, even those kids that do spend time talking with an adult outside of school, most times that adult is talking at the kid, talking past the kid, talking over the kid, talking by the kid. The educator is the only one really connecting and conversing with the kid. Mm-hmm. And that's why, I know it can happen online, but man, I really, really hope we can get them back in our classroom families soon.
Definitely. So looking at the time, sir, I always like to keep these between 20 and 25 minutes. Is there anything social media, anything you want to put out there where people can find you, follow you, look for you online?
Yeah, man. Everything is at Hal Bowman at all the places, whether that's the Facebooks, the Tweeters, the Instagrammers. And I don't even know. I really don't do much of any of that. And then, but yeah, man, come hang out and come find me and we'll connect. And if you need anything, let me know. I've been doing a lot of virtual stuff. I've been, it's funny, man. For the last, 7 or 8 years, I averaged between 15 and 20 live events in August. I just go school to school to school to school. Right. And then, but this year we've done 2, and the rest of them have virtual. So the downside is, I do miss the interaction live in person. The upside, I've been able to do a ton of schools I would have never been able to travel to. And what's cool is, man, people can experience for themselves the connection that can happen inside of 45 minutes, inside of an hour, a couple hours right there online, because they'll feel it too, and they'll think, oh my gosh, man, maybe this can happen.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, we've seen it happen with other teachers before, and yeah. It is definitely possible across the board. People just have to take the jump, man. They just have to take the jump.
And then also, dude, this is a time for some space and grace for sure. And listen, I'm all about stuffing knowledge into the kids' noggin, definitely. But more than ever, man, this is a time for us to really give some grace and take our time and be patient and get kids to connect and get more than ever. I know we feel the pressure of delivering content. And I got to tell you, man, that's not even on the list for me. I just want kids connecting online. I'll tell you a good example is there's a school already back in session, and a friend of mine, she's a teacher, and she said, hey, would you come hang out with my kids? I had with my kids' first period. I was like, yeah, for sure, man. And so we connect before we join into the Google thing. And then we're talking just she and I, and I said, hey, how much time do we have? And she was telling me, I said, she goes, what do you guys usually do during this class? And she goes, oh, nothing. We just have breakfast. I go, what? She goes, yeah, we're just having breakfast right now. So this week we're going to have breakfast together every day. And next week, and I said, you know what? And so we joined it, and there's a kid eating Pop-Tarts. There's a kid cooking eggs on this little square over here. And this kid right here, is brushing his teeth. And I thought, but you know what, dude, there's 28 boxes and 28 kids, and she's got 100% of her classroom engaged right now.
That's all it is. That's basically what it is, man. I mean, that's what it is.
And here's the thing, man, if I got to eat breakfast for a week, before I get to a little bit of content, we can do it. Cause I can tell you, man, just like everybody else, you're like my high school boy, right when we started this thing last March or April, I would look on his computer screen and he has all the same kids in all the same classes. One class, he's got, 25, 26 kids in one class. I look on his screen 30 minutes later, there's another class. He's got 3 or 4. They just don't go to that class. They don't want to. They don't feel connected. They don't like it. And then, those kids apparently don't have a mean dad like Mike said, because my kid's got to go to the class whether you like it or not, man. Right.
Got to get there, man. Got to get there.
It
just, and that's the thing, man. With this whole thing is just teachers, listen. Connection is the key. You need to connect with these kids. This content is important, but connection is first. Please. So Hal, I do appreciate your time, brother. Definitely we are recovery mode from pushboundconsulting.com. And again, definitely download the 150 page ebook on pushboundconsulting.com. Definitely get you an idea of what we're talking about, questions, things about what's going on in the future. Mr. Bowman, I will see you soon, sir. I will check in on the Men of Ed, all the usual stuff, and
awesome.
We'll go from there. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much.
Take care, brother.